Hello whisky fans, welcome back. I've decided to do another little comparison video, little A-B comparison with the new Laphroaig 10-year-old cask strength release. So this is batch 14, it's the one that I've recently reviewed. If you are interested in your Laphroaig 10-year-old cask strength releases and you haven't seen that video, please check it out on my channel. If you have, then let's have a little bit of fun with another comparison. Already compared it to last year's Laphroaig 10 cask strength release. This time we're going to pit it against the other big boy of Islay. It's Lagavulin 12-year-old cask strength, which I've also reviewed, so you can check that video out as well. Came in the wonderful Legends Untold, I think they called it, presentation. So really nice artwork on the tube. I love that one. I don't know what I'm going to do with this once it's empty. You can probably see that on my pinboard behind me I've got lots of labels from whiskies that I mostly enjoyed. Not all of them enjoyed that much. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but some of these weren't that enjoyable, but most of them were. But I've also got some little bits of the actual cardboard tubes and boxes cut up on there, but I think my hands would be a quiver if I had to take a knife to this one. Gonna have to think about that one. Maybe I'll just keep the tube as it is. Definitely have that label up there, and that can have a place on the board. But anyway, that's packaging. You don't really care about that, do you? You come here for the whiskey like we all do. Let's get some in the glass, see what we've got. It's unbelievable how Lagavulin, a lot of you all know, was actually set up to copy Laphroaig. Some of you may not know that, but the Laphroaig distillery has been around for a really long time. I think they were both registered as legal distilleries in 1815, although I can't see that on the label of this one. Surely it's on there somewhere. I'm only having a quick look over there, but I can't see it anywhere. Pretty sure they're both 1815. The Laphroaig will say for sure. Am I just going completely mad? Is it me, or did they all, established 1815. I think they were both registered legally in the same year, i.e. the excise man caught up with them and made them start paying tax in the same year, which probably isn't a coincidence. But Laphroaig was around a little bit earlier, and Lagavulin was actually set up to copy the Laphroaig style and try and muscle in on what they were doing. And there's a slightly acrimonious history of sort of disputes and stealing or blocking people's water supply to the other distillery to interrupt production, which is actually where, if you believe the marketing blurb, where the Laphroaig Friends of Laphroaig sort of plot of land thing came from. They say that by giving ownership of the land around their water supply, it means that even themselves wouldn't be able to sell it. No one can interrupt their water supply because it's coming from land that myself and you guys at home own. So it's interesting, getting back to what I was talking about, these two Islay whiskies, similar history, been around for about the same period of time, set up for similar purposes, that they've got such different profiles and different colours too. I don't think it says much about the presentation on this one. You get about the same information out of Diageo as you do out of Laphroaig, which is bugger all. But the colour of these, so a similar age, so bear with me, humour me, assume that colour actually means anything. Which would you say is the older out of these two? You'd probably guess this one is maybe 8 years old, and this one is maybe a 16-year-old. That's the Laphroaig. With all of that horrible E150A colouring in there that Laphroaig use, and that is probably also an unnaturally coloured Diageo product, but that's the 12-year-old Lagavulin. So 2 years older, and huge difference in the colours. But what I was thinking, when I poured the Lagavulin, it got a little bit on my hand, and I just sniffed it as it was evaporating off my skin. And a lot of people will just say, yeah, they're both huge peat bombs. And they are, but the peat that goes into them and the amount of spirit that you can smell, and that's all because of the different casks that you use and the different production methods, they are such a different profile. Such a different profile. So, what am I going to do here? This is going to be really confusing because let's just do them one at a time. Laphroaig first. Screw it. Laphroaig is in my left hand. Let's swap these around or I'm going to confuse you as well. Laphroaig is in my left hand. Lagavulin is in my right hand. Symbols, right? So, this is the life, isn't it? Cask strength Laphroaig in one hand and cask strength Lagavulin in the other. This may be the pinnacle, the peak of my YouTube whiskey career. Can you call it a career if you don't make any money? I am. I think they are both sweet whiskies in their own way. They're both medicinal, they're both smoky, but again, in their own ways. They are very different smoky peat bombs. But the Laphroaig is really big on caramel and vanilla from the cask. I think a lot of it, obviously stills and how hot you run your stills and fermentation time and barley and peat, it all makes a difference. Although I will say that Lagavulin gets their malt from Port Ellen and Laphroaig gets the majority of their peated malt from Port Ellen, so I'm sure they've got their different recipes that they use, but the majority of the malt from these two is coming from the same place. It's peated by the same people. It's obviously differences, but same source. But I think the main difference between these is from the cask types, because with the Laphroaig you've got a heavy use of fairly fresh first fill bourbon casks. With the Lagavulin, I don't think they actually say what the casks are, but they say that they're refill casks. So I know that Lagavulin is big on the idea of they actually send some of their casks away to be used for grain whiskey before they're used for the Lagavulin, because they want to take the edge, the excessive input from the casks away, so that you can have a slightly longer maturation that highlights the spirit more than the cask, and you can really see that between these two. The Laphroaig, it's really big on that caramel vanilla note, whereas the Lagavulin, it's a much more raw ordeal. You can tell that the casks have had much less input into this spirit. It's, in a way, much more salty, much more raw. The peat is more industrial, more smoky, and you've got a distinct, sharp, malt-driven, lemony quality to the Lagavulin, which is really covered up quite a lot in the Laphroaig. The Laphroaig is much more rounded. You could say that it's a touch more mature, because a lot of the brash quality of the Lagavulin, that would probably be there in the Laphroaig if they didn't use those fresh bourbon casks. Which, if you've seen my other A-B comparison video with batch 13 and 14 Laphroaigs, the batch 14 is especially sweet and caramelly. It's a very bourbonised version of Laphroaig. Whereas that Lagavulin, now this is something that I criticised the Lagavulin 12 for, and I still think that. This Lagavulin 12, it has grown on me a little bit. I am enjoying it a little bit more now that the fill level is going down. After it's had some air to it, probably had slightly more than half of that bottle, it has opened up and calmed down a little bit. But I must say that the Lagavulin is a much more raw and dirty whiskey, slightly more industrial, and there's an oily fattiness and a tarry quality with the Lagavulin, and I think a fair bit of youth. I'm not really... You can tell that the Laphroaig is 10 years old. It doesn't taste like an exceptionally old whiskey. But with the Lagavulin, you can really taste the youth, and in a way that adds a little bit of punchiness and boldness to the whiskey, but it does also come across a little bit immature as well. I do think, and this is an unpopular opinion, and it's what I've said before, that Lagavulin 12 years in refill casks is not really enough. I would really like to see this whiskey at maybe 14, 15 years old in those refill casks, and I think you'd have something really special. Or, of course, the 16-year-old, but a proper ABV. But, broken record, we've been talking about that before, haven't we? So, on the palate, Laphroaig first. It's really nice for once, actually, that we've got two whiskies where, if I put those down and mix them around all day, you can immediately tell which is which, because the colours are so different. Although, you'd immediately be able to tell the difference from the nose as well, because they are very different whiskies. So, on the Laphroaig 10-year-old cask strength, it carries on again with that very, very sweet caramel, vanilla profile with a touch of oak spice. I think that the cask just speaks that little bit louder in every way with the Laphroaig. Let's have a little sip of the Lagavulin and see what we've got there. I was considering the reputation of Lagavulin and the reputation of the 12-year-old cask strength release. I was pretty critical in my review of it, and I do stand by that. But that lemony malt and the slightly... It's just a more aggressive peat combined with that lemony malt is a very enjoyable profile. I just think, me personally, I would love to see it a little bit older, but the Lagavulin starts off with that dirty, oily, slightly tarry, sort of tarred rope, maritime peat, and then explodes with that juicy lemony malt. It is an exceptional whiskey. Would I pay literally twice as much for this one as this one? Well, I'd definitely buy this one for sort of £65. Would I spend another £125, £130 on this one? Probably not. I think that it's very expensive for what it is, especially when you've got much cheaper alternatives on Islay and elsewhere. Which, to be honest, is part of the reason why I'm doing this comparison now, because, tongue-in-cheek, all the things that I've said about Laphroaig, and they do really piss me off, but I would buy Laphroaig 10 cask strength and possibly the Carchus again, whereas the Lagavulin 12, I'm probably unlikely to buy another bottle for the price that they want anytime soon. So let's just have another sip and look at the finish. I'd actually say that neither of them are completely mind-blowing in the finish department. They both kind of have a similar problem, and I think I mentioned this on the Laphroaig, that they kind of finish in stages. You get the main flavours that you get on the palate, and then that dies down, and then you're left with some sort of secondary flavours, and that dies down, and then you're left with lingering sort of residual flavours. I would say that the finish on both of these could be better. I'd say that on the Laphroaig, it's much shorter and much milder than it normally is or should be on a 10-year-old cask strength Laphroaig. And the Lagavulin 12, the main part of it predominantly dies off rather early, leaving sort of lingering traces of that burnt peat and lemon. They're both really good whiskies. They're both decent finishes, but probably could be better. And I think that's probably something that in both cases you would probably see an improvement of if they were at a slightly older age statement. But I'm really sort of nitpicking now. They're both great whiskies, but there are improvements that could be made. Unpopular opinion though, and this is what I said in my review of the Lagavulin 12, I'm not a huge fan of Lagavulin in purely refill casks at such a young age. And I kind of say that from a place of love, because I love sort of some of the special releases that Lagavulin have done for Facila have been absolutely mind-blowing. Hard to get, and if you can get them they tend to be expensive, but some of the older cask strength refill cask Lagavulins have been so much more than what you get and what people rave about with this release. And like I said before, it is a major sticking point. We are living in the real world, and most of us unfortunately have to pay for these with real money. You can get 2 bottles of the Laphroaig for the same price as 1 bottle of the Lagavulin, and the Laphroaig is probably more available for most of us than the Lagavulin. I would say that if you are dead set on getting that Lagavulin profile, if you've had the Laphroaig, and especially this last batch, if you're not happy or you're put off by the sound of that heavy bourbonisation, the caramel, vanilla, sort of honeyed aspects that cover up a lot of the flavour on the Laphroaig, if that doesn't sound like your thing, if you really want that sharper, lemony, more focused, malt-driven character that you do get on the Lagavulin because it is in those refill casks, I would say it's a hell of a lot of money to buy a bottle of that, and I don't think it's particularly good value. I would say, have you considered perhaps a cask strength Kilhoman? Or even just the Maccabee? If you can get on with like the red wine and sherry influences that you get in a Port Charlotte 10, maybe that might be a good alternative to the Lagavulin 12 cask strength at a much better price. Failing that, you've got the old faithful Ardbeg 10. I think that it's a great bottling that really holds its own against some of these special releases from other distilleries. And the thing is, the benefit of going with a distillery like a Kilhoman or a Bruichladdich or an Ardbeg is that being craft distilleries that put out craft presentations of their whiskies, unlike Lagavulin and Laphroaig, you get a proper ABV, non-chill filtration and natural colouring, and they actually commit to it on the label, even with their entry-level expressions, which is not something that you can say for entry-level expressions from Lagavulin or Laphroaig. So, love to hear your thoughts on this one. Which is your favourite Islay? Is it Lagavulin? Is it Laphroaig? Is it something entirely different? Look forward to hearing from you. I hope that this video has been useful and hope to get some good conversation and feedback from this. I look forward to hearing your opinions. Which one am I going to pick up? Go for the Lagavulin. Thanks for watching and cheers.